Welcome to African Stories, Folktales, and Jokes. The story we are telling today is the laziest plumber won the love of a billionaire. They called her lazy. Lazy for sleeping when others worked. Lazy for ignoring chores. Lazy for saying, "I'll do it later," and then never doing it. Her name was Zuri Amadi. She was the kind of woman people loved to talk about, but never tried to understand. In the small coastal town of Edora, everyone had something to say about her. She's so beautiful, but she'll die poor. She can't even sweep her own compound. Who will marry her? Her beauty is a waste. And maybe in their eyes they were right. Zuri didn't like to struggle. She didn't like to rush. She didn't like to prove herself. She believed in something different, that everything good comes to those who stay calm while others hurry. But then came Aiden Kalu, the youngest billionaire in Edora, a man whose name made people stand straighter when they heard it. He was only 32, owner of Kalu Tech Global, a company that designs smart homes and devices across Africa. Handsome, confident, soft-spoken, and yet mysterious, Aiden had options. The town's most educated ladies, models, and even politicians' daughters competed for his attention. But he wasn't interested in any of them. He wanted something he couldn't define. Something quiet. Something simple. Something like Zuri. It all began the day his car broke down right in front of Zuri's old family house. Aiden had been driving himself from a private project inspection when his luxury SUV overheated. His driver had fallen ill that morning, so he was alone. When he stepped out in his crisp white shirt, wiping sweat from his forehead, he saw her, Zuri, sitting under a mango tree, eating roasted corn and fanning herself lazily. Their eyes met briefly. She didn't smile. She didn't even seem surprised to see a billionaire standing before her car gate. Instead, she said in a soft, unbothered tone, "You should pour water on the radiator, rich man. Or better still, call your mechanic. You people love stress." He chuckled. "Do you know anything about cars?" She shrugged. "Only that when they stop, they stop. Everything else can wait." Something in her voice made him pause. She wasn't trying to impress him. She wasn't chasing his attention. She wasn't even pretending to care who he was, and that, to him, was charming beyond reason. Later that day, Aiden returned with a mechanic. But his mind wasn't on the car. It was on the girl under the mango tree. Over the next few days, he found himself visiting the area again, pretending to inspect land nearby. Each time, he saw Zuri, sometimes sleeping in a hammock, sometimes plucking mangoes, sometimes just staring at the clouds like the world owed her peace. When he finally gathered courage to speak again, he said, "Zuri, don't you ever get bored doing nothing?" She smiled lazily, her eyes half open. "I don't do nothing. I rest. Rest is what keeps beauty alive. You rich people don't understand that." He laughed genuinely. It was the first time in months that he had. And from that moment, he knew there was something in her that no degree, no fancy dress, and no ambition could replace: ease. She had the kind of peace money couldn't buy. But the world wouldn't keep quiet. When rumors spread that Aiden had been seen around Zuri's house, chaos erupted. "How can he fall for her?" one woman asked bitterly. "She doesn't even have a job," another sneered. "I heard she sleeps till noon. My goodness, he's bewitched." Even Aiden's mother, Madame Eloise Kalu, called him to say, "Aiden, please, tell me this is a joke. You cannot marry a woman who refuses to work. What will people say?" He only smiled and replied, "Mother, people have been talking since the world began. Let them continue." Weeks passed and Aiden kept coming. Zuri didn't change her habits. She still slept late, still moved at her own pace. But somehow, she made him feel calm. When he was around her, his fast-paced billionaire world slowed down. She didn't flatter him, didn't fake laughter, didn't compete with anyone. One evening, as the sun melted behind the horizon, he told her, "Zuri, everyone thinks you're lazy, but I think you're free." She tilted her head, smiling faintly. "And what's wrong with being free?" "Nothing," he said, stepping closer. "In fact, it's the most expensive thing on earth." That was the moment he realized she was the woman he wanted. When news broke that Aiden Kalu was engaged to Zuri Amadi, the entire city of Edora lost its mind. Influencers made videos about it. Socialites whispered in salons. Ex-lovers tried calling him to change his mind. But Aiden had already made his choice. He wasn't marrying her because she was industrious, brilliant, or glamorous. He was marrying her because she had the charm of stillness, a peace that whispered louder than ambition. And that was the one charm no one else possessed. But love stories never stay quiet for long. Not when jealousy begins to bloom. One of Aiden's former admirers, Clara Mensa, a powerful and manipulative fashion entrepreneur, wasn't ready to lose. She believed Zuri's charm was just an act, and she was determined to prove it. She began plotting. And little did Zuri know, the battle for her peace had just begun. The engagement announcement hit the city of Eudora like a thunderstorm. Aiden Kalu, the billionaire genius of Kalu Tech Global, to marry Zuri Amadi, the town's laziest woman. Nobody believed it at first. They thought it was a publicity stunt. A prank. A rumor that would fade in a week. But when the pictures leaked, Aiden standing proudly beside Zuri, his hand resting gently on her shoulder, smiling like a man who had finally found peace, the whispers turned into outrage. And no one was more furious than Clara Mensa. Clara had been one of Aiden's earliest admirers, rich, beautiful, and the perfect definition of ambition. She was the owner of Clara Royale Designs, a multimillion fashion company that clothed the elite of Nigeria and beyond. Her name opened doors. Her perfume filled rooms before she even entered them. She had once told her friends, if any woman deserves Aiden Kalu, it's me. We're the same kind of people, driven, powerful, unstoppable. So when she found out that Aiden had chosen Zuri Amadi, a woman she considered the lowest of the low, her pride snapped like dry wood. She threw her glass of wine against the marble wall of her penthouse and shouted, "Her? That lazy plumber? She can't even fix a leaking tap, yet she wants to fix a billionaire's life." Yes, Zuri had once tried to be a plumber. It was a short-lived attempt. She had signed up for plumbing work at her uncle's shop after her parents died, but she quit halfway through the training. She said the tools were too heavy and the work was too wet. To her, fixing pipes wasn't her calling. But to Clara, it was proof of her uselessness. She couldn't even face her plumbing work. Clara spat one evening while gossiping with her friends at the Golden Mirage Lounge. She isn't even on the billionaire level. She has no degree, no business, no discipline, nothing. And yet he wants her. Her friends nodded, feeding her rage with flattery. "You're right, Clara. Aiden must be under some kind of spell. Maybe she used charms. I heard lazy women are dangerous. Men lose focus around them." Clara's eyes darkened. "Then I'll break that focus. I'll show Aiden what kind of woman he's dealing with." Meanwhile, Zuri was completely unaware. She continued her usual routine, waking up at noon, walking barefoot around her garden, humming to herself as she watched the clouds roll by. Aiden adored that about her. To him, her simplicity was medicine. He'd come from a world of deadlines, deals, and noise, where every smile had a price and every friend had a motive. But with Zuri, everything was quiet. She'd look at him and say things that no business expert or life coach could ever teach. "Aiden," she said one afternoon as they sat under the same mango tree where they first met, "you don't have to chase everything. Some things come when you stop running." He smiled. "You really believe that?" She nodded lazily. "Of course. You can't catch the wind, Aiden. You can only open your window." And for the first time in his adult life, Aiden felt peacefully lost. But Clara wasn't done. She began gathering information about Zuri's past, every job she had failed at, every debt her family had owed, every careless rumor that could stain her name. Still, Zuri didn't react. When her cousin rushed to her in tears saying, "Zuri, they're destroying you online," she only yawned and said, "Let them. People will talk until their mouths get tired." And just like that, she went back to slicing mangoes. Clara couldn't believe it. "Who is this woman?" she screamed, pacing her office. "I've ruined women tougher than her. Why isn't she reacting?" Her assistant, Teo, looked uneasy. "Maybe that's her strength, madam. She doesn't fight back. She absorbs the fire." Clara turned sharply. "Then we'll give her something she can't absorb." That was when she decided to show up, uninvited, at Aiden's next business gala. She arrived in a glittering silver gown that looked like it was woven from moonlight. The cameras flashed. Reporters whispered. She knew exactly what she was doing. Halfway through the event, when Aiden was speaking to investors, Clara approached him with a glass of champagne and a dazzling smile. "Congratulations, Aiden," she said smoothly. "You've always had a unique taste in women. Though I must admit, plumber wasn't on anyone's bingo card." The crowd went silent. Aiden's jaw tightened, but he didn't respond. Instead, he turned, found Zuri standing quietly at the edge of a room, and walked straight to her. He held her hand and said, loudly enough for everyone to hear, "She might not be what the world expects, but she's everything I never knew I needed." Zuri looked at him with that same lazy smile that made him forget the world. And for a moment, everyone in that glittering hall realized she didn't have to prove herself. She was the proof. But Clara was not finished yet. That night, she called someone on the phone, a mysterious man whose voice was deep and calm. "I told you," she said coldly, "the lazy girl must fall. I don't care what you have to do. Just make Aiden see who she really is." The voice on the other end chuckled softly. "Oh, don't worry, Miss Mensa. I've known Zuri Amadi for a long time. She's not as calm as she looks. Everyone has a breaking point. Every great love story meets its storm. For Aiden Kalu and Zuri Amadi, the storm came not from strangers or jealous rivals, but from those closest to his heart. It began quietly, with whispers in the corridors of the Kalu mansion, the grand white estate overlooking the Atlantic Ocean. Aiden had just announced that his wedding to Zuri would be held in 3 months. The announcement didn't bring celebration. It brought war. His mother, Madame Eloise Kalu, sat still at the dining table that evening, her face tight with disapproval. The chandelier above her flickered faintly, as though the house itself shared her unease. "Aiden," she said finally, her tone calm but sharp as glass, "tell me you're joking." He set down his fork gently. "About what, Mother?" "About that girl," she replied. "That plumber's apprentice. That lazy woman who can't even hold a proper job. I've tried to stay silent because I thought it was a passing phase, but now you're talking about marriage." Aiden's jaw clenched, but his voice stayed low. "Her name is Zuri. And yes, I'm marrying her." Madame Eloise's silver bangles clinked as her hands trembled. "You can't do this to our family name. You're a Kalu. Your father built an empire from dust, and you're going to hand it to a woman who doesn't even know what an empire is." "She knows peace, Mother," Aiden said quietly. "And peace is something our family hasn't had in a long time." But Eloise wasn't alone. Aiden's best friend and business partner, Ryan Obina, soon joined the opposition. Ryan had been with Aiden since university. They started Kalu Tech together, Aiden the visionary, Ryan the strategist. He was like a brother, trusted more than blood. Until Zuri came along. Ryan had tolerated her at first. He even smiled politely when she visited Aiden's office, sitting lazily in his chair, swinging her feet, and sipping juice like a child with no care in the world. But when he realized Aiden was serious, his loyalty shifted into fear. One night, he came to Aiden's private study. "Bro," he began cautiously, "I need to say this as a friend who loves you. This woman, Zuri, she's not for you." Aiden looked up from his laptop. "Go on." "She's too unmotivated. She doesn't understand the world you live in. You need a woman who can stand beside you in meetings, host dignitaries, run charities, someone who adds value to your image." Aiden chuckled softly. "Ryan, you sound like a resume." "I'm serious," Ryan said, stepping closer. "You've worked all your life to build this empire. You'll ruin it over a woman who thinks resting is a full-time job." Aiden sighed deeply and leaned back in his chair. "Ryan, I've built everything except peace. Zuri gives me that. She doesn't need to be like anyone else." But Ryan's expression hardened. "Peace won't keep a company alive. Wake up, Aiden. Love doesn't pay dividends." The argument between them grew until it turned into silence. Ryan stopped visiting the mansion. He stopped answering calls. And soon, Madame Eloise began working with him secretly. She invited him to tea one afternoon. "Ryan," she said, "you're the only person Aiden still listens to. Please, help me talk sense into him. That girl will destroy everything we've built." Ryan hesitated. "He won't listen anymore, madam. He's blinded by her calmness." "Then we'll make him see," Eloise said coldly. "If that lazy girl wants to marry my son, she'll first learn what it means to live like a Kalu. And if she fails, Aiden will have no choice but to let her go." The next morning, Aiden's mother paid Zuri an unexpected visit. She arrived in a black Mercedes, dressed in her trademark elegance, pearls around her neck, silk scarf tied perfectly. Zuri was asleep in her hammock, wearing a wrapper and a faded t-shirt, the sound of birds chirping around her. "Good morning, madam," Zuri said softly, blinking as she sat up. "You came without calling." Madame Eloise frowned. "You seem very comfortable." "I am," Zuri replied lazily. "You should try it." The older woman's eyes narrowed. "Zuri, let's speak as women. You may think my son loves you, but love doesn't last when comfort fades. You are not ready for the kind of life Aiden lives." "I'm not trying to live his life," Zuri said, smiling faintly. "I'm just part of it." Eloise exhaled sharply. "You'll have to prove that." "How?" "I'm moving you into the Kalu mansion for 1 month. If you can adapt to our family lifestyle, I'll bless your union. But if you can't, walk away quietly." Zuri tilted her head, still smiling. "Fine, but I won't change who I am. I'll only live in your world my way." That evening, when Aiden returned home, he was shocked to find his mother's car parked in the driveway and Zuri sitting on the couch of the grand living room, looking out of place, yet completely at ease. "What's going on?" he asked. Zuri stretched and said, "Your mother says I'm on trial. 1 month to prove I can fit into your world." Aiden turned to his mother. "Mother, this is unnecessary." But Eloise raised a hand. "No, Aiden. It's important. Let her show us she can live beyond hammocks and mango trees." Zuri looked up at him with a teasing smile. "Don't worry, Aiden. I'll survive your mansion, as long as I can still nap in peace." What neither of them knew was that Eloise had another ally inside the house, Ryan. He had agreed to secretly observe Zuri, to note every mistake she made, every moment she failed to meet the Kalu's standard. And already he had a plan. He whispered to Eloise, "Give me a week. By then, your son will see she's not fit for him. She'll run back to her lazy world before you even ask her to leave." Madame Eloise smiled coldly. "Do it." But fate has a way of humbling those who plot too deeply. Because while Ryan and Eloise schemed to expose Zuri's weakness, Zuri was about to reveal something none of them expected. A quiet strength that could outshine all their power and pride. To be continued.